Shall we try a bit of stretching? So, and down. Then back to prayer. And the hands up and out. Turn one hand to look up, and then turn the head towards it. The hands up, down, and now hands up and down, pulling the head back to look up. And then looking right down on top of the fingers. Hands behind. And rolling the head. The other direction. And then back to prayer for a sec. Let's just rub the hands. And then the hands on the damn chin. The touch helps the mind come to the place. And imagine you're breathing from that point. So your breath is going to that point, and then it's coming from that point. Let's rub the hands again. And this time we'll do either the kidneys or the sacroiliacs, whichever you feel is right for you. I'm going to place the hand on the back. So the front of these centers is like a single point, but the backs of the centers are very much pairs, like the sacroiliacs or the kidneys, and then the shoulder blades, and then the occiput, either side of the occiput, or the temples, the ears, the eyes. Now just place your hands again. Feel that these points, like your kidneys, are like two lungs. And as you breathe in, the air goes down into them. And then as you breathe out, it comes back out. Okay. And then back to prayer for a few seconds. And now you're taking the breath down to the down chin. We want to feel the breathing very much as an intimate exchange between us and the environment we're in. So we're taking something into our body and then we're sending something of ourselves out. And you can feel the path, through the nose down into the lungs, and then you can just take it down wherever you want to, wherever the mind needs it to go. Moving gently from leg to leg and connecting to gravity. Downcast. Operating upon your body, your physicality, your material aspect, but also affecting your mood. As you feel your body pulled down, it begins to get you a little bit down. Begin to feel the legs. One is stretching, one is contracting. We want to feel that we're just a yin-yang circle that's sort of spinning. So the black is changing to the white and the white is changing to the black. If we lock that up, if we stop it spinning and get it just to become this amorphous gray, then that's basically only possible when the spirit is repressed. So the spirit brings things together, and then before they can actually combust, it keeps them apart. So you can think of the yin-yang symbol, then the circle that contains the two phases would be spirit, but also the S that keeps the two phases apart would be spirit. Let's bring the feet up a little bit. Again, make sure the feet are right. So big toes in a little bit, little toes out. And now playing with the hands. So as I pull my hands apart, it's as though they're attached by an elastic thread, quite a weak elastic thread. So I'm stretching something here and it wants to pull back. So I allow it to pull back. And then when they get too close, there's sort of like a force field pushing them apart. I want to feel that as a reality. There's a connection between these two hands. They don't want to separate, but similarly, they don't want to touch. You just want to feel it and allow it to come into the whole body. So this is the breathing. This is how the breathing should be. So the next phase comes out of the previous phase. The hands are coming together and they're being pushed apart. And then the hands are moving apart and now they're being pulled together. Very much want to feel the force in operation before it actually starts affecting the movement. So my mind and heart are with these gentle forces, force of attraction and a force of repulsion. And as you work, just imagine that your heart is between your two hands. And so you're gently massaging the heart. You're pulling it, and then it springs back, and then you're squeezing it, and it springs back again. And now just turning. Keep that feeling of gravity, but as you pick up a bit of speed, feel the levity coming in. The levity is expressed by the arms tending to lift as you spin. Try and keep the flesh on your body relaxed enough so that you can feel it being flung outwards. It's like your jowls begin to sort of wobble. And you can drool, you can allow your slobber to spray the room. In your mind, in your imagination, if not actually. Just feel like you're melting, you're dripping wet. So when we're standing still, the drips are dripping downwards. And now they're being flung outwards, like a dog that's shaking itself dry. And then into the second one. And now we're moving the spine from back leg to back leg. We need to concentrate a bit more on the turning to make sure I still have this swirling around me. And now to riding horse. Feel the gravity. The image of gravity is rain or droplets of water trickling, dripping, melting. So you're wet through and drips are falling down trickling down your body, dripping off your arms. So everything's heavy. But also the wetness is also steaming upwards. It's also vaporizing, becoming a gas. So that's the image of levity. So we want both of those balancing each other. I'm dripping down. That's easy to feel because physically we're always connected to gravity. We can't cut off from that. In our mind, we can. But gravity is always operating on the body. And we want to feel the levity as the void of space, the vacuum of the space of the heavens, sucking at the spirit and the energy, just as persistently as gravity pulls the body down. But it's much easier for us to cut off from this one. So that lovely Thomas Meyer quote, gravity is the square root of levity. So gravity is always less than levity. Levity is actually much stronger if only we gave it its right place. That's what I want to feel. We can feel how strong gravity is. It's really sucking at us. And we just want to feel this lift, but it's sort of inside. It's pulling it not at your body, but at your spirits. You know, there's something that's always trying to cheer you up and lift your spirits, if only you locate it and allow it. And that's just life. It's the life force that has to be there. Otherwise, we'd be so depressed we'd all kill ourselves. So spirit is simply the spark of life. And that requires things to come together, but not so close that they actually combust, that they actually combine. They need to be kept apart as well. So that's what we're feeling here, the sinking of gravity, the rising of levity, and my being keeps them together. I don't really need to worry about that. You know, let's just let the arms down and we'll just bring them up again. Just feel the lift, like the puppet man. He's just pulling your hands up. And then just really slow down until it seems as though you've stopped, but you've still got this pull coming upwards. And then you can just really relax downwards. I want to feel all the time the state that I'm in as a balance of opposing forces. Something is lifting my arms up to counter, to balance the fall downwards from gravity. And I just want to keep the up going rather than just lock my arms into position. Whenever I do anything as a living creature, you know, whether it's my heart beating, my lungs breathing, you know, going to the shops, any activity, I want it to be instigated by spirit, by the interaction of the levity and the gravity. And you can see how difficult it is because it requires us to keep a present mind, an ever-present mind, and that's simply mindfulness. So when the mind is present, the system slowly intensifies. John always used to have this wonderful saying, if you're not going forwards, then you're going backwards. You can't stand still. And that's the feeling here. If I can keep my mind going, it's gradually getting more and more intense. My legs are hurting more and more. the spirit's building up. And that's what we need, because we need the spirit to build up to a point where it pushes us into a different reality, into like a different realm. That's what I mean by, spirit. I like to define spirit as the energy that redefines 100%. So when you keep the spirit going and you keep it active, the 100% increases and increases. It's not just this fixed amount. If I'm in real heightened awareness and really buzzing, then obviously my 100% is more than when I'm half asleep. And really, there's never 100%. We can always be a little bit more awake than we are. Okay. And now let's just go back and forth. The image they use is tearing silk. The two hands are moving in opposite directions. One hand is pulling in, one hand is pushing out. Imagine you've got a strip of silk cloth and you're tearing it. And it's a good image because you think of, cloth is woven from the strands. And so if you tore it really slowly, you would actually feel each strand snapping. And that's the quality of movement. It's like it click, 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 clicks. It's not completely smooth. It only gets smooth when we speed it up. But when we really go slowly, it's like it's going click, 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 click. And that's what we want to feel. It's got a sort of tremor to it. And again, that's spirit. So when we used to teach the beginners the warm-up exercise, this was always the one that they liked the best. It's because there's something true about it. It's just working the principles so clearly and elegantly. Cross energy, as I come into one leg, the energy expresses in the other side of the body. One side becomes yang and the other side becomes yin. We want to see this constant changing, this constant to and fro, back and forth, as being the humor. It's light, it's playful, and it's generative. So it's generating movement within the body. My body's like a machine that's generating energy, and that's creating movements quite different from the ones I'm actually executing. All you have to do is just start an exercise and keep it going. And be patient and don't get bored. Just keep your mind with it and it will take you somewhere. And if you're lucky, it's somewhere you've never been before. Let's change the feet. It's so delicate and so light. There's this sense that it's just full of possibility. At any point, it could just transform into something quite different. And that would really take me by surprise. This is what I call the point of failure. It's basically where being and becoming are the same. Try and make sure you straighten the legs, especially the back leg here. It's difficult. Okay. And now let's try the two circles. Now I'm turning to yield. I can think of the yielding as being me pulling an arm through, and I can equally think of the yielding as being an arm that goes behind the person. And ideally, I would like both. One dealing with the person's fist, with the part of their body that's trying to strike you, and the other arm dealing with their whole body. So the local and the global. Or you can think of it as like the short term and the long term. And then just keep it going, but feel the figure of eight now going around the hips. It's the same turning, I'm just visualizing it differently. We want to feel the reality of this. It's not just a shape I'm creating with my arms. There's a real energy flowing along this pathway. So this hand here is just picking something up that's coming out of my back of my hip or my sacroiliac. So as I put my weight in this foot, if I can remain relaxed, it squeezes this open here and something escapes here and I bring it around. And then I bring it in this point here and catch it as I come into this leg with the other hand. I want to feel these flumes of energy that come out of either side of my sacrum. And I want to direct it, get it to sweep down like I'm brushing the floor. I want to be aware of what's going on in the energy beneath my dantian, in the realm of my legs and my root. It's a region we're not used to putting our mind into. We're not generally aware of it. So I have to bring my weight into the leg and then something escapes. Again, bring the weight into the leg. When I come into the leg obviously has to tense up to hold me up. But I want only what's necessary to become tense and everything that's around it to stay relaxed. If anything, I want what's around it to get more relaxed. So I feel the leg that's getting tense. I let everything that's around it just swell open. And now let's try the same thing, but with the stepping, going around the leg, around the leg. If anything, that escape of energy from your hip is easier to feel when you're stepping with the foot. So as I put the foot down and start bringing my weight into it, something swells out. In a sense, it's just a wave of relaxation, but I want to feel it as this, like a tentacle that's coming out of my sacrum on my hip, and I'm directing it around so that this is a continuous, connected passage of energy. Now let's just try just a little bit of this one, just with the view of getting the tail swinging a little bit. Remember, the tail is really delicate and fine, so we can't go at it heavy-handed. So you just have to set something up and then just let it keep going and not look at it too closely with your mind, because otherwise you'll smother it. So the hips are sort of tipping like this. It's really just that figure of eight with the tentacle again, but I'm sort of directing it just by flicking my hip. So my hip flicks and that sends it out. As I continue, the feeling is that my tail gets more and more relaxed, so it can sort of start growing. So the tail is normally, in a sense, it's like our center of repression. This tail is so sort of crunched up and atrophied at the end of our spine. And I just want to really loosen it up and feel that it can sort of whip around like an animal's tail. I can do something and it will fly out. And let's just get it going underneath and back. Again, what do I do? What do I do with my mind to make the tail come forward? So I have to see it. So the tip of the tail is so fine. It's like the point of a needle. And I've just got to point that forwards underneath. And then I just send it backwards, and now it's looking behind, it's pointing behind me. And now under again. As though the tip of the tail has a mind of its own. It contains spirit. So it's the spirit at the end of the tail that's wanting to come forward, and my body just has to follow that. And this is what we're used to blocking. We're used to blocking with our mind what the spirit wants to do. And back, way. And under. We have to be careful that when we bring it under, we don't roll it up, we don't crunch it up. It's still long, it's just swung under. And then it swings back, and then it swings under. And now, let's try the stepping again, but with the other foot. And just getting that looseness in the tail. So I'm going around. Just my tail that's directing this movement. The tail is creating the figure of eight. And the rest of my body just goes along for the ride. Well, this is in the form all the time. When we're sort of, where we send a hand out like this and then step, and then this hand comes in. So this arm is going out, and this is like the image of this plume of energy that's coming from the hip. And so here now we're doing it with the tail. So the arm is going out, but it's being directed by the tail, by the tip of the tail. Right. Let's just bring it to riding horse one last time. Big toes in a little bit, little toes out. Feel the big toes coming in, tending to bring the heels out, and feel the little toes trying to venture out, bringing the heels in. And I want to feel this. It's never locked, it's never frozen. Something is pulling the arms up to balance the pull of gravity that's pulling them down. And then just bring it up. And then just feel the same thing here. So gravity is pulling my body down, but something is lifting my body up. So that's the thread suspending the top of the head. And if you read the old Tai Chi books, Yong Cheng Fu and Sun Lu Tang and those guys, when they state their 5 or their 10 principles of Tai Chi, the number 1 is always the head suspended. So the number 1 is the levity. Without that, it just all falls flat. Without that, you'd lose interest very quickly. Just imagine you are actually bound to the ceiling with a rope from the top of your head, and you just want to let the legs go as much as possible. And when you do, the whole thing becomes a little bit wobbly, because you effectively become like this pendulum. I want to feel the tail trying to reach down into the ground. So there's spirit in the tail, in the bottom of the spine, and there's spirit in the crown, both going in opposite directions. So the geotropism and the heliotropism. And then I'm just stretched between the two.